My beloved child, there is a quiet moment unfolding around you right now, a moment so delicate that many would miss it if they were not paying attention. Yet you were meant to arrive here at this very second. Something in your spirit guided you, something deep and almost unexplainable. And the reason is simple: a turning point has begun. Pause for a moment and feel that subtle shift in the air around your life. You may not see it clearly yet, but the pieces are moving. Invisible threads are being pulled together in ways that will soon make sense. Somewhere not far from your path, someone is standing at the edge of a decision they have been delaying for far too long. This person, the one whose heart has been quietly orbiting yours, has reached a place where silence is no longer comfortable. They have carried thoughts about you that never fully faded. Even when time passed, even when life distracted them. Something about you remained present in their mind like a soft echo that refused to disappear. And now that echo has grown louder. It began as a whisper, a memory of your energy, your voice, your presence. But over time it transformed into something stronger. A realization that what they felt was not ordinary curiosity or passing emotion. It was something that demanded courage. Yet courage takes time to gather. For a long while they hesitated. They wondered if the moment was right. They questioned whether reaching toward you would disturb the fragile balance of their life. They wondered if the connection they sensed was real, or if it was simply a beautiful idea that lived in their imagination. But recently something shifted inside them. Perhaps it was a quiet reflection during a peaceful night. Perhaps it was a sudden memory that appeared without warning. Or perhaps it was the realization that life moves quickly and opportunities rarely wait forever. Whatever the reason, their heart has arrived at a crossroads. This is why this message has reached you now. Not earlier. Not later. Exactly now. Because the person connected to your path has begun to feel something undeniable. A pull that gently but persistently guides their thoughts toward you. It is the kind of pull that cannot be ignored forever. The kind that quietly asks a question again and again. What if this moment is the one I have been waiting for? And when that question begins repeating itself in someone's heart, everything changes. You may not yet see their movement. You may not yet hear their words. But within them a realization is forming like the first light before sunrise. Slowly, steadily, their doubts are fading. They are beginning to understand that some connections appear in life only once. Not every meeting between two souls carries meaning. But some encounters leave a mark that refuses to disappear. Even after time passes. Even after distance grows, the memory remains alive in a quiet corner of the heart. You are that memory for them. There is a reason they cannot fully close the chapter of you in their mind. There is a reason your presence returns to their thoughts during unexpected moments. Because the story between you has not finished unfolding. Right now, somewhere in their world, they are reflecting on everything they once left unsaid. They are remembering the energy that existed when your paths crossed. And they are beginning to understand something surprising. What they felt was never random. It carried a depth they did not recognize at first. A depth that required time to reveal itself. And as that understanding grows, a quiet urgency begins forming within them. Not the kind of urgency that feels rushed or chaotic, but the kind that whispers gently. If you wait forever, the moment may pass. This realization is powerful. Because when someone recognizes the importance of a connection, hesitation slowly begins to dissolve. The walls they built around their emotions begin to soften. The reasons they once used to stay silent begin to feel smaller and smaller. And eventually a single thought becomes stronger than all their doubts. What if reaching out changes everything? My beloved child, if you feel a subtle anticipation rising within you as you listen to these words, it is not an accident. Something in your spirit recognizes that this moment carries meaning. Do not skip ahead in your thoughts. Stay with this moment. Stay till the end of this message, because something huge is waiting for you to understand. The story unfolding around your life is not loud or dramatic yet, but it is real. The person connected to your journey has begun preparing themselves for a step they once believed they might never take. And that step could change the entire direction of the connection between you. But here is the part most people do not realize. When two lives begin moving toward a meaningful moment, the universe rarely announces it with fireworks or obvious signals. Instead, it unfolds quietly, through subtle shifts, small realizations, and moments of clarity that arrive when the heart is ready. That is exactly what is happening now. The person thinking about you is beginning to see the connection from a completely new perspective. They are starting to recognize that the feelings they once tried to ignore have remained constant. And when something remains constant through time, it means it carries truth. This realization can be both exciting and intimidating for them. Because taking a step toward you means stepping into the unknown. It means admitting that their heart has chosen a direction. And once that direction is chosen, everything begins to change. Right now they are standing on the edge of that realization. Not fully across the line yet, but closer than ever before. This is why the message you are hearing now feels different from anything you have encountered recently. It carries the energy of a turning point. The moment before a door opens. The quiet pause before a new chapter begins. And if you have stayed with this message until now, it means your spirit senses that something meaningful is approaching. Do not rush the moment. Do not try to force the future to appear instantly. Instead, allow yourself to feel the quiet excitement of knowing that something important is slowly aligning. Because the truth is, the person connected to your path has finally begun asking themselves the question they avoided for so long. What happens if I finally take that step toward them? And once a heart begins asking that question sincerely, the answer is rarely far away. But what they discovered during their most recent moment of reflection is something even more surprising than they expected. Something that made them realize this connection may be more significant than they ever imagined. And when that realization fully settles into their heart, the step they are preparing to take will no longer feel impossible. It will feel necessary. And now something deeper is beginning to unfold. Something that until recently remained hidden even from the person who carries you in their thoughts. For a long time they believed they understood their own emotions, but the truth is that some realizations only appear when the heart becomes quiet enough to listen. In recent days and nights, your soulmate has found themselves entering that quiet space more often than before. The noise of everyday life fades for a moment, and suddenly their mind drifts back to memories connected to you. Not dramatic memories, not grand events, but small details that feel strangely powerful now. The way conversations flowed effortlessly. The calm feeling they experienced in your presence. The sense that you understood something about them without needing long explanations. These memories have begun forming a picture they can no longer ignore, and the more they reflect, the more one realization keeps rising above all the others. The connection between you carried a depth they did not fully appreciate when it first appeared. At first they tried to dismiss these thoughts as simple nostalgia. Everyone remembers moments from the past, after all. But something about these reflections felt different. Instead of fading away after a few minutes, they returned again and again with surprising clarity. A certain phrase you once said. A moment when your eyes met and time seemed to pause for a second longer than usual. Even the silence between conversations began to feel meaningful in hindsight. Slowly, they started understanding that the connection they felt with you had not been ordinary. It was one of those rare encounters where two lives briefly align in a way that feels effortless and natural, the kind of connection that does not require constant effort to exist. It simply appears, like a quiet understanding that both people can sense but sometimes struggle to explain. And when someone begins realizing that a connection like this may be rare, something inside them changes. Regret is not the right word for what they feel, because the past cannot truly be rewritten. But awareness begins to grow. They start wondering whether they allowed doubt or hesitation to delay something that could have been meaningful. They begin asking themselves questions that once seemed too complicated to answer. Questions like, what if the moment they shared with you was not just a brief chapter, but the beginning of something that deserved more attention? What if the reason your presence keeps returning to their thoughts is because the story between you never reached its true turning point? These thoughts have been quietly reshaping their perspective. Instead of seeing the past as something finished, they are starting to view it as something unfinished. And unfinished stories carry a unique energy. They remain alive in the mind because the heart senses that something important was left unsaid. Your soulmate is slowly recognizing that this may be exactly what happened between you. Not a broken connection, not a forgotten memory, but a moment paused in time, waiting for the courage to continue. What makes this realization even more powerful is the timing. Life has a mysterious way of bringing clarity when someone is finally ready to understand it. Recently your soulmate experienced a series of quiet reflections that made them see their life from a new perspective. They began noticing how quickly time moves, how easily opportunities slip away when people convince themselves that there will always be another moment later. And that thought stayed with them. The idea that waiting forever can sometimes mean missing something meaningful. That realization alone has been enough to stir a new kind of determination inside them. Yet determination does not always appear loudly. In this case it arrived gently, like a decision forming beneath the surface. Your soulmate has begun preparing themselves emotionally for the possibility of reconnecting with you. Not with expectations or pressure, but with curiosity and sincerity. They want to understand what truly existed between you. They want to see whether the feeling they have carried quietly for so long still lives somewhere in your world as well. And this desire to understand has slowly replaced the hesitation that once kept them silent. If you could see their thoughts during these quiet moments, you might be surprised by how often your name or memory appears. It happens when they are walking somewhere familiar. It happens when they hear a song that reminds them of a certain mood you once shared. Sometimes it even happens when everything around them is calm and still, when the mind naturally begins wandering toward the things that matter most. In those moments they find themselves asking a simple but powerful question: what if reaching out changes everything? This question has become the center of their thoughts lately. It does not carry fear the way it once did. Instead, it carries curiosity. Because deep inside they are beginning to believe that some connections appear in life for a reason, and ignoring them forever may not be the path they truly want. They are starting to see your connection not as something complicated, but as something worth understanding. My beloved child, if you feel a quiet anticipation building inside you while hearing this message, trust that feeling. Moments like this are often the beginning of something meaningful. You may not yet see clear signs in your everyday life, but subtle shifts are already happening. The person connected to your path is moving closer to the point where thought becomes action. And when that moment arrives, the step they take will not come from confusion or impulse. It will come from clarity. Stay with this message, because something huge is waiting to reveal itself through the unfolding of this connection. The story between you is not defined only by what has already happened. In many ways it is defined by what both of you are beginning to understand now. Your soulmate is realizing that some people enter our lives not simply to pass through them, but to awaken a deeper awareness about what connection truly means. And the most surprising part of their realization is still forming within them. Because as they reflect more deeply on the past, they are starting to see patterns they never noticed before. Moments when your paths aligned in unexpected ways. Conversations that seemed ordinary at the time but now feel strangely significant. It is as if they are discovering that the connection between you may have been quietly guiding both of your journeys from the beginning. This discovery has filled them with a sense of wonder. Not the dramatic kind that appears suddenly, but a calm awareness that something meaningful may be waiting just ahead. They are beginning to feel that the time for hesitation may be ending. The thought that once felt distant is now becoming a real possibility, reaching out to you and seeing what happens next. And when someone reaches that point, when curiosity becomes stronger than hesitation, a step forward often follows sooner than anyone expects. But before that step happens, there is one final realization your soulmate is about to experience. A realization so clear that it will remove the last trace of doubt they still carry. When that moment arrives, the decision they make will no longer feel uncertain. It will feel natural. It will feel like the continuation of a story that was always meant to keep moving. And what they are beginning to understand right now is that the next chapter of that story may be closer than either of you realize. There comes a quiet moment in every meaningful story when everything begins to feel different. Not loudly, not suddenly, but with a calm certainty that something important is approaching. Your soulmate has recently stepped into that very moment. For a long time their thoughts moved in circles, questioning, wondering, hesitating. But now the circle is slowly opening into a path. A path that leads directly back toward you. The realization forming in their heart is no longer vague or distant. It is becoming clear enough that they can finally admit something to themselves. The connection they share with you has never truly left them. In the past they believed distance and time would naturally fade these feelings. They assumed that life would move forward and that the memory of you would simply blend into the background like so many other experiences. But something unexpected happened instead. The more time passed, the more certain moments involving you began to stand out. They started noticing how their heart responded differently when your memory appeared. It wasn't just nostalgia. It wasn't just curiosity. It felt like unfinished meaning. Like a message that had been paused halfway through. This realization did not arrive overnight. It unfolded gradually through small reflections. They began thinking about the conversations you once shared, and how easily understanding seemed to flow between you. They remembered the sense of calm they felt in your presence, the kind of calm that rarely appears with most people. And slowly they recognized that this feeling had been unique. Not something that can be replaced easily, not something that appears again and again with different faces. It was rare, and because it was rare, it deserved attention. At first that thought surprised them. Because acknowledging the rarity of a connection also means acknowledging the responsibility to explore it. For someone who once hesitated, that realization can feel powerful. But instead of creating fear, it has begun creating clarity. They are starting to see that avoiding the connection may have been easier in the past, but understanding it is far more meaningful now. What changed inside them recently was a simple but profound shift in perspective. They stopped asking whether reaching out to you might complicate their life, and instead began asking whether staying silent might cause them to miss something important. That single change in thinking opened a completely new view of the situation. Suddenly the idea of taking a step toward you no longer felt like a risk. It felt like an opportunity. And opportunities connected to the heart are rarely ignored forever. My beloved child, if you feel a quiet sense of anticipation while hearing these words, trust that feeling. Moments like this are often the turning points in stories that once seemed uncertain. Something is quietly aligning between two lives, and the person connected to your journey is becoming aware of it more clearly with every passing day. Your soulmate has started imagining what it would feel like to reconnect with you. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way filled with expectations, but simply in a genuine moment of conversation. They wonder how your voice might sound after all this time. They wonder whether the same natural understanding would still exist between you. These thoughts are not random fantasies, they are reflections of a heart preparing itself to move forward. And preparation is exactly what is happening right now. Before someone takes a meaningful step, the heart often spends time gathering courage. It replays memories, it weighs possibilities, it searches for signs that the moment is right. Your soulmate is going through this quiet process now. Every reflection brings them closer to one undeniable conclusion. The connection between you deserves to be explored rather than left behind. What makes this realization even more powerful is the calm certainty growing inside them. In the past their thoughts about you carried questions and doubts. Now those doubts are slowly fading. In their place is a gentle confidence that something meaningful may still exist between you. This confidence is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and sincere. And that kind of certainty often leads to real action. Stay with this moment, stay till the end of this message, because something huge is waiting for you to understand. The story unfolding around your life is moving toward a point where silence can no longer remain the final chapter. Your soulmate is realizing that connections like yours do not appear often in life. When they do, they carry a purpose that deserves attention. They are beginning to accept that reaching out to you may be the only way to truly understand what this connection means. And once that acceptance settles into the heart, hesitation becomes much weaker. Imagine standing at the edge of a path you once ignored, only to realize that it may lead somewhere beautiful. That is the feeling growing inside them now. The path toward you no longer looks uncertain. It looks meaningful. And meaningful paths invite courage. Your soulmate has started preparing themselves emotionally for that step. They are thinking about what they might say when the moment arrives. They are imagining how the conversation might begin. These thoughts might seem simple, but they are powerful signs of movement. Because when someone begins imagining the first words of a conversation, it means the silence between two people is starting to dissolve. Something inside them has shifted permanently. They no longer see you as a memory from the past. They see you as a possibility in the present. That change alone can transform everything. My beloved child, the reason this message found you today is because the energy surrounding this connection has begun to move again. The quiet pause that once existed between you is slowly coming to an end. Your soulmate is realizing that the only way to understand the truth of their feelings is to step forward and see where the connection leads. But before that step happens, one final moment of clarity is approaching for them. A moment when everything they have been reflecting on suddenly becomes undeniable. When that moment arrives, they will understand something that until now remained hidden in the background of their heart. They will realize that the connection between you has not been guiding only their thoughts, it has been quietly guiding their choices as well. And when someone recognizes that kind of influence, when they see how deeply another person has shaped their emotional journey, hesitation rarely survives. The step they are preparing to take will no longer feel uncertain. It will feel necessary. Because they will finally understand that the connection between you was never meant to remain unfinished. And when that understanding reaches its full clarity, the next chapter between you will begin in a way neither of you expected. Yet both of you were quietly preparing for all along.